Assalamu alaikum everyone. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. We are so blessed to have Dr. Maryam with us. I miss a lot of people who move from this community, but I really miss Dr. Maryam and Buzuruktar, my good dear friend, Brother Siavish. You are so loved. You're so missed, mashallah.
Thank you very much.
Alhamdulillah.
You're too kind.
So if, as I mentioned over the phone to you, that mashallah, we surpassed, and by your leadership and the contributions of so many people in our community, providing over 100,000 meals to the homeless shelter, Helping Hands, and how it started and the importance of dawah and interfaith, we would love to learn from you. I always learn from you, so please.
It's mutual. I learn something every time we speak, even if it's
mashallah.
informally. So thank you.
Please.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am honored to be asked to address all of you this evening on the subject of interfaith activities. That is my love and my passion, is working with people of other faiths and finding the commonality and building trust and love with people of other faiths, since we are all created by the same creator. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. The way I've structured this mini lecturette today is to discuss two types of interfaith activities, and then to go more into the one that Dr. Alameen asked me to address more fully, and that is our relationship with Helping Hands Homeless Shelter and how that developed. But just quickly, there are two types of what I would consider interfaith activities, or in some cases, even you could use the same structure for dawah activities of a variety of sorts. But one of the ways is planned, what I consider planned interfaith activities. And the second one is the situational. The planned organizational activities that we've been involved in as a community over the 40 some years that my husband and I had an opportunity to be associated with ISOGS. One of them is the lecture format. And we've been able to participate in such things as 3 successive Sundays at Westminster Presbyterian Church, where the head minister, as well as Rabbi Barry Marks, a very different of our Islamic community, and myself talked about the Prophet Abraham from each of our religious perspectives to a group of about 75 people each Sunday. And it was a very dynamic, interesting conversations that we had, and we learned about how each viewed the Prophet Abraham, peace and blessings on him. That's one type of activity, which obviously requires some planning and isn't spontaneous, but has a lot of benefit from being able to demonstrate to others that we have more in common than we do in terms of our differences, which unfortunately tend to be what is focused on by the media at large and others that would try to get one group or one faith pitted against another. So the lecture format is really good for that, for this kind of discussion. Another would be invitations to preach at various area churches and a synagogue. And again, stressing our commonalities and developing that relationship, which is important that we have these relationships with people of other faiths, so that in times of need, we can call upon one another, we can support one another. That certainly happened with the burning of our first mosque, when it was burned to the ground by a group of white supremacists. People from all different faith traditions came to us to support us, offered their places of worship, demanded action in terms of an open investigation to find out what had happened. And a member of the Jewish community even provided his services pro bono with our insurance company that was refusing to pay out our insurance premiums so that we could, our insurance claims so that we could rebuild. Those kind of relationships, again, are very important. Another activity that I can think of, and Dr. Alameen, I'm sure you remember this well, since you were such an integral part of organizing this and promoting it, was our lecture at UIS after we had a viewing of the Sultan and the Saint. And again, opportunity for question and dialogue and being able to demonstrate to the audience the relationship that we people of other faiths have. So the lecture format is important. Another one are different kinds of exhibitions. Our Islamic community has been very, very active with the Liturgical Arts Festival, where we have artists from each faith tradition participating in the exhibit every 2 years, and then they have an interim program as well. And I know that Sister Tarfa Khan is our representative at this time to the Liturgical Arts Festival and has done that for a number of years. Then there are things like the exhibits and the Children's Diversity Program at the State Museum and the Lincoln Library and other locations, where we actually begin to teach our children by example, by involving them with those of other faiths and learning about each other's traditions. And then participation in clubs and organizations like the Greater Springfield Interfaith Association, the Governor's Prayer Breakfast Committee, the Rotary, Kiwanis, and Habitat for Humanities, where we've had 2 successful interfaith builds that we have participated in. I can still remember seeing Dr. Tamizuddin and Rabbi Marks, my husband and I drove up to one site one time, hanging siding on the front of one of the houses that we were building. And my husband and I looked at each other and began to laugh because we weren't sure that Rabbi Marks had ever picked up a hammer before. And the only hammer that I think Dr. Tamizuddin was likely to have picked up was one where you test the reflexes on the knees and elbows. But they were doing a good job. So there was a lot of humor, a lot of laughter. We developed even a prayer manual, an interfaith prayer manual, so that we could bless the food, which met our dietary requirements each day. So again, building those kinds of relationships. The second type of interfaith activities are the situational or the spontaneous kinds of activities. And those tend to be organic. They arise out of a felt need that we feel a need to respond to based on our own teachings of our faith. And one type can be rallies around social justice issues and common concerns. One year, there was legislation that had been proposed regarding a tax credit for parochial school student parents. And we lobbied very hard and held rallies in conjunction with people of other faiths to pass that legislation, and we were successful. Because of the relationships we developed then, we were in a better position then to call upon our families of faith, of other faith traditions, when we were trying to pass the halal bill legislation. And that was very important. Not only did those that we had met when we were lobbying for the education legislation come to support us, but they went to members of their own faith traditions that were legislators and lobbied them as hard as we were lobbying. And so they were able to help us make it possible to pass the halal bill in the state of Illinois. One of the ones, though, that Dr. Ali asked that I focus on is related to Helping Hands Homeless Shelter. In 1989, it was bitterly cold, had gotten cold early and was staying cold longer. And it was also Ramadan. And we had held an iftar dinner at our mosque. Now, understand at that time, there were maybe 20 Muslim families in all of Springfield. And now there are over 300 in the greater Springfield area. So we've grown quite a bit since that time in 1989. After we finished our iftar dinner, we realized we had so much food left over. And we talked among ourselves and decided we had to find some place to donate it, because as is typical with Ramadan, you know how you're hungry, so you cook, and you cook more than you normally would cook, but yet you have less of an appetite when it comes time for iftar. So we had all of this food left and we didn't want to waste it. So I had remembered hearing about, and some of the others in our community had remembered reading about it, an article about a new shelter that had opened in Springfield. So we decided that, why don't we take our food there? If they have a homeless shelter, surely they've got people that are hungry too, not just needing a place to stay out of the cold. So we located it. We went downtown, and it turned out that it was across the street from the governor's mansion, a one-room, and I'll say this, shack, which is no longer there. We went inside carrying the food, hoping to donate it to the people that were being housed there. There were probably, I don't know, 20 or 30 people sitting on folding chairs, lying under tables, huddled up in the corners, trying to stay warm. They looked like they hadn't had a decent meal in a very, very long time, and certainly not a home-cooked meal. And we were shocked at first at the look of these people, many of them toothless. They'd had very poor health maintenance of any kind or dental hygiene. We were shocked that that degree of poverty and need could exist in Springfield. So we spent some time talking with them and getting to know their situations a little bit, because we just didn't feel we could drop the food and leave. As when we did leave, we stood by our cars and we started talking to one another and saying, this isn't right. This is Ramadan. And we are with excess food, and these people have no food. Because there wasn't, at the time, a group had donated some money and they had rented this shack for these people, but there were no services, no staff, no showers, nothing but one little bathroom and this room where these people could sit out of the cold all night long. And then it would close in the morning and reopen again of an evening. So we made a commitment at that time that we would do what we could to feed these individuals from then on. Maybe not every meal, but we could at least do one meal a month. So we talked to some people that were organizing it from the Interfaith Association and said, you know, we want to be able to do something. Can we start bringing food once a month? And they said yes, but we're also trying to get a grant so we can rent a larger space. And we have a feeling that it's going to go through, because the governor doesn't like looking out his window and seeing homeless people huddled inside and out of this shack. So you might know our application for a grant got approved very, very quickly to fund us to be able to, or us meaning the homeless shelter, to fund the rental of another space. After that, we provided in the beginning, 1 meal a month. It grew to as many. At one time, I know we had 5 teams of women that would cook meals each month. And we also encouraged other congregations to participate and sign up and cook at least 1 meal a month, and not just hot dogs. These people had had plenty of hot dogs. They needed some home cooked, nourishing food. And so we committed to doing that. And I am pleased to say that it has continued in 89. I'm sorry, there was a question?
No, Dr. Maryam, no, I don't
Oh,
think
okay,
so. I
I
think
heard
that
some
was just,
background noise.
no, it was just a little background
Okay.
noise, that's all.
Okay, so not only did we prepare food to take there, but because a couple of the brothers that went with us when we took the food recognized quite quickly by just a quick observation from their medical experience that there were serious medical needs among some of the people there, they went back and they began to refer individuals to various clinics in Springfield, providing pro bono medical services to these individuals. So that's something that happened, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was a situational, organic need that He opened our eyes to and our hearts to. And I implore all of us not to forget, because we sometimes go about our day-to-day activities and we're blinded because of our own agendas and all that we have to get done to the needs of others. And we all have gifts that we could use to help others in our community. And by doing that, and by working with other faith traditions to accomplish these goals, we end up not only serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it changes our own hearts. And it changes the hearts of other people that have an opportunity to see us and work with us. Because I really, as an educator, believe that the best way to learn something is through experience. I believe in the experiential learning philosophy strongly. And that association with people of other faiths changes their hearts and gives them a different impression of Islam too. And by doing this, we also were able to develop a very close working relationship with the media in Springfield, very favorable, because they were able to see us in action through the things that we were doing. We weren't just espousing beliefs and tenets of the faith or whatever. We were actually trying to live them. And I know from personal experience, I said my Shahada 52 years ago. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alamin. So that gives you an idea of my age. But I had a teacher, my first teacher of Islam, the one that actually brought me to Islam. At that time, there was only the Pickthall translation of the Quran, which if you've tried reading that, for me at least, it was very hard to comprehend. And there were very few books for the layperson about Islam. Most of them were religious tracts produced by other proselytizing organizations that were anti-Islam. So I had to learn about Islam through the examples of my first teacher. And it was his behavior and how he lived his faith day by day by day that I came to Islam. So when we talk about doing dawah work needs to be experiential. People need to experience Islam through us. And I am proud to say that my first teacher has been my husband now for 50 years this September 18th. And I still learn from him every day. So those are just a few of my thoughts and ramblings about interfaith activities and the way I see them and my love and passion for interfaith activities. Dr. Alameen, I know you said we needed to be sensitive to the time and questions that people might have.
Oh yeah, that would be great. And this is the third time you called me Alameen, and
Oh,
I
I'm
have
sorry.
no idea. You and I have been
you don't
together
know
for
who Dr.
15,
Alameen
17
is.
years, and you have picked me
Dr.
up on sometimes on a daily basis. How does a dear
Dr.
sister
Ali, I'm so sorry.
whose husband is from Iran forget Ali?
Yeah, no kidding.
How do you forget the name Ali?
I know,
Anyway.
and I guess I have Dr. Alameen in my mind. He's a
No,
physician that we had. He and his
please.
wife were physicians in Springfield, and
Right.
now they're in the Orlando area or Tampa area, I guess.
Right. Do you see him any time?
Yes, we do periodically.
Oh, mashallah,
yes.
beautiful. He's such a wonderful man too. He's wonderful.
He was on my mind because we're trying to get together with them. So I think that's
Oh,
where they
okay.
came. My
No,
apologies.
of course not. Of course not. No, alhamdulillah. I'm so blessed that you, that's a beautiful. Thank you so much. And really, we need to go ahead and continue this. This is something I didn't even realize until I did the math with Dr. Bakr Siddiqui that we have crossed over 100,000 meals. And that is because of you and a handful of people that emerged as a result of a dinner, of a potluck dinner. Mashallah, that's so special. And we definitely want to continue. There's so many new families that are moved here, and that needs to continue across the generations, so alhamdulillah.
Well, and it also is a wonderful way to teach our children and involve our children just in the preparation and delivery of the food and involving them and putting our faith into action. Again, making it experiential. Right.
Dawah by deeds, dawah by deeds.
Exactly.
And, I don't know how many people accepted Islam because one of the companions gave up Quran, but I know that the numbers of people that accepted Islam because of the manners of the Prophet ﷺ and the manners and the way that the Sahaba treated other people, that is indelible, and
exactly.
So, and the Prophet ﷺ connected faith, that you do not have faith if your stomach is full and your neighbor is hungry. So imagine that's how powerful our faith is, mashallah. But anybody wanted to ask Dr. Maryam a question? This is a wonderful opportunity. She's joining us from Florida, mashallah. Anybody? We have about 7 minutes, alhamdulillah, 7-8 minutes. Anybody wanted to ask a question to Dr. Maryam? Oh, by the way, I muted everybody on the other side, so you can unmute yourself and ask. Go ahead, feel free to unmute yourself.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Maryam. This is Amina Rahman.
Alaikum salam.
I had a question. What do you think are some of the more important priorities when we're other than the experiential stuff you mentioned and being part of the community, what are some other ways that we could help non-Muslims understand us better and our faith?
I would encourage our writings. Also, I think that I believe that it's continued that we still have someone that writes for the State Journal Register periodically about Islam, and I would encourage people to continue that. I would know your own neighbors, very certainly, who's on your right and who's on your left. Not only do they have enough food, but is someone ill? Can you take them, a meal? I think that we need to be very generous in that respect and very sensitive to the needs. If there is someone that on your block that may be elderly and having difficulty mowing a yard. If you have a child old enough to assist, maybe you could even get a group of young people from the masjid to help take up raking leaves, or that kind of thing is still experiential and situational, but it's important for our children to be involved in those kinds of ways, reaching out to our neighbors.
Beautiful, yeah. Sister Amina just recently moved here about a year ago, and she's, mashallah, helping with us with the Islamic school. She reminds me so much of Ambreen, and she's, alhamdulillah, because she's a teacher herself, alhamdulillah, from Montreal, so alhamdulillah. So other people, please go ahead. We have another 4 minutes or so.
I have a question.
Go ahead, sweetie.
What was difficult for you when moving into Islam?
Oh,
What was difficult for me when I became a Muslim? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I think at that time, it was the lack of information that I could read, because I'm a passionate reader and I didn't have much to read. There's a growing body of literature, not just for adults about Islam, but also there is a beginning of a number of books that are being developed for children. And I think that we need more of those. We need more people that are involved in writing for our children, and not only our children, but for the interfaith community at large, that can be used to help stock the shelves of libraries. And so that our other people, young children, begin to get a sense of what Islam is. And one of the things I have to recommend, I think I learned this from one of the sisters recently, is that don't forget, if you donate a book to a library, check it out several times a year, because if books don't get checked out, then they end up being taken off the shelves. So it depends on the circulation as to which books stay on the shelves of libraries. So, but I would encourage, if some of you have a gift for writing, write for the new Muslim, write for children, write for those that are going to visit the masjid. I know a number of years ago, we didn't have anything to help explain the significance of Friday within Islam. And we didn't have anything for people that were just visiting the mosque in general, or people that were from a different faith that might be attending a Muslim funeral, to explain what they would see, or for Eid. And so we developed some things, some brochures that we could give out to them, so that if they were Jewish or Christian or whatever faith, and they were coming to a Muslim's funeral, they had something they could read. They would understand what they were seeing, understand what they were hearing, and feel like they were actually participating. And we did the same thing for Eid celebrations, and just those kinds of things are important.
Is your book Sticks and Stones out yet, or?
No, it's not. I withdrew that because, it was my first attempt at writing a novel, and it needed a lot more work. But I have started another writing project that
wonderful.
Just in fact, I'm in the outlining stage right now.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Actually, the one who asked the question, Alicia, her sister Laiba, is a prolific reader. She loves to read, and I'm going to, inshallah, work with her so that she becomes, inshallah, a writer. And you're right? Because Allah Ta'ala created the pen. After Allah Ta'ala created the arsh, one of the first things that was created was the pen, but Allah Ta'ala did not need to create the pen. He could have just simply said, and it would have been. But the significance of the pen is for us. Noon wal qalami wa ma yasturun, that Allah Ta'ala created the pen so that we may value the pen, and we may value writing and reading. So yeah.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, sweetie?
Did you find similarities in your previous religion and Islam?
Yes, very definitely. Very definitely.
I have a question.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How many books have you wrote so far?
Well,
she has written a lot of the brochures that we use. The brochures that we use at the mosque is because of her. She has written so many booklets and pamphlets, and even how to do janaza. She's done so much writing. But Dr. Maryam, you please go ahead.
no, I because of my career, I did a lot of writing, and so some of the publications would be associated with that. But
Right.
but I'm hoping to, now that I'm totally retired and or somewhat retired, I'm hoping to be able to do more writing. So that's what I'm working on right now, is setting aside that time to be more productive.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
I have a question.
Yes.
So what inspired you to become a Muslim?
Well, I had wanted to be, I was very active in my parents' church when I was growing up, and I was considered a junior or a youth minister and would preach on youth Sundays. And I thought I wanted to become a minister. But when I tried looking into that, I was rejected because I didn't believe in the Trinity. I believed in Jesus as a prophet, peace and blessings upon him, but I did not believe that he was God incarnate. And so because I didn't believe in that tenet of the church, then I couldn't be a minister. So I started looking around for something else that I could believe, that did show that Jesus and other prophets were that. They were the teachers. They were the people that taught the example of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted us to be. And so when I was introduced to Islam, at first, I would say, when my husband, my teacher, would say, well, I would ask him questions. His eardrums must have just been burning red at times because I'm a very prolific question asker. So I would ask him lots and lots and lots of questions. And I would say, well, I believe in that. I believe in that. And he said, well, it sounds to me like you're a Muslim. I say, oh, no. I'm not a Muslim. I'm Christian. It's just that I believe in what you're saying. So after a while, he began then gently to point out that what I was saying I believed in was really Islam. And he was the one that was able then to point out, you say you believe in this, and this. Those are all the beliefs of Islam. The things that you have a problem with in Christianity are not a part of Islam. So we believe the same thing you do. We believe that in one true God, and we believe in the prophets, including the Prophet Muhammad. So then he would describe the nature and of the Prophet Muhammad. I would say, well, he sounds good. He sounds very much like the other prophets I studied when I was studying Christianity. So that rings true. And so that's really what brought me to Islam. It was because I could agree with and see that it mirrored what I understood God to be and the prophets and their roles.
Jazakallah khairan, Dr. Maryam. Thank you so much for that's so beautiful. We're so blessed. And please convey my love and my salam to Brother Siavish. And to Layla as well, and to Sam, and to the whole family, inshallah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and to your family as well. It's been nice talking to all of you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam.
Everybody else, please go pray Maghrib and then join the class, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum.